Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Good to be back with you on this Monday morning from my studio setup. I've been traveling a bunch and will be traveling a bunch at the end of this week. Very busy time in my life right now, all good things. But speaking of traveling, Claire Crowley was traveling in a hotel, and somebody, I guess, left a comment that they were watching Claire be on her phone the whole time, shaming Claire, a young mother, for, I guess, the abandonment they're saying she's giving her child. I'm going to read what the initial comment was, and I'll give Claire's response. It's pretty interesting because it, of course, motivates a conversation about screen time, how we navigate the world of screen time, especially as we are workers chained to that screen, as that's the desk. This is the desk that you live at, and it's also the app and the all of the communication tools that are used to do everything in life. So how you look at how you look at life really informs how life responds to you, right? If you think you live in a friendly world, you do. And if you think you live in an unfriendly world, you do. This commenter clearly lives in an unfriendly world. Let's share what the commenter said. We'll give Claire's snapback. I saw these two in real life at a hotel with their baby, and all weekend they were on their phone in front of the baby. So sad what our world has become. I feel like someone needs to tell them and all the other influencers to put down your phone. At least try in front of your kids. It's so damaging to our human interactions and relationships. Now, the commenter is not necessarily wrong, but the fact that the cell phone is damaging to human interactions, absolutely. But the cell phone also opens up opportunity for more human interactions. It's just a tool. That's how we use it. Now, and by that I mean, well, did the fact that Claire is an influencer help her be able to travel more? Did it help her be able to have a baby in the first place? I always discuss, I make content while I'm on the road. I shoot my podcast in the hotel room, but I'm also on the road because I can afford to be on the road because I make content. So I can afford to have a baby because I make content. I wasn't going to have a baby, not on purpose in this world, if I couldn't get my finances in order. It's a weird world out there, right? And how we cope and manage the cell phone is one of the more interesting aspects of the modern world we live in. Here's what Claire had to say. I don't usually respond to these, but this one touched a nerve. We are damn good parents that are also human and doing the best we can. I feel like someone needs to tell the people that make judgy comments like this to also put their phone down and stop assuming things about people they don't know. This is the epitome of a troll. Do you know if I was checking on my mom, making reservations for my family, making a doctor appointment, or literally working? I think there is this expectation of perfection or superhuman lives that people in the public have. But that's just not it, sis. We are all doing the best we can, so mind your monkeys and watch your own circus. Oh, that's a fun way to put it. Now, the comments that have been posted online about this range from people agreeing with Claire, saying, look, the amount of emotional labor that moms have to deal with, you have no idea the type of work that goes into just keeping the family going. And then others said, well, while Claire's response is justified, it would probably benefit her to not respond to these types of people. I struggle between the two, as I always, my nerves are always pinched by these a-holes. So in the thumbnail here, I said Claire responds to stalker fan. Well, I'm calling them a stalker fan because they are openly admitting that they were watching them all weekend. Now, I'm sure they just saw them in the hotel several different times, but by their own words, they were watching them all weekend. If you watched me this weekend, you would see my wife on her phone. Was she just scrolling mindlessly through TikTok, or was she trying to bang out a deliverable that she needed to do and couldn't do it until I was holding the baby? These type of hypotheticals of what's actually being done on the phone are one that, you just never know. You just never know. Now, I personally made a Instagram reel that went viral, I would say. It's probably pushing towards 1 million views, on basically saying, I think that we shouldn't allow restaurants to let kids be on their devices for the most part. Now, that went crazy, right? To the point where the Today Show wrote an article about it right here. New parents spark debate about declaring they're going to be a coloring book family at restaurants. Now, as it turns out, the reason why people were so mad is because I triggered them because of the way I spoke very judgy to a blanket statement of people. I'll defend what I said. I wasn't speaking to someone specifically. I wasn't saying I was at my hotel and saw Claire on the phone. No. It is a pandemic, I believe, that exists and is normalized across many different restaurants. I would rather be at a restaurant where kids are just losing their mind, yelling, kicking around, dropping crayons on the floor. I'd rather live in that world. Now, you might say, well, my child is on the spectrum and the device is used. That's a different story. I'm talking about, generally speaking, I was walking by people I love when I'm in New York because the restaurants are right there on the streets. And I was walking by and there was parents and children all on their phone. That's different than getting into the phone to book something that you need to do or finishing up something. That's like people pacifying themselves when they could be reaching into further conversation. You ever been on a road trip with your spouse and you're on like I don't know if everyone does this. When I'm on a long road trip with my spouse, we're talking about crazy things. We're going over our family trauma. We're doing hypotheticals. We are reaching into the depths of our creative mind to have conversations. You can't create and consume at the same time. You just can't do it. So it's an issue we all have. I've recently taken some good efforts to delete Reddit off of my phone, which has been very helpful to eliminate a good portion of the bullying. Now, this is sadly, this is something that it looks like followed her into her Instagram stories. I would fully support an artificial intelligence app that removed comments that are shameful and negative. Now, you might say, Dave, do you just want to live in an echo chamber? Well, to an extent, yes, to an extent, because there are too many of these to deal with. Someone like Claire having 1 million or so people on her Instagram, you cannot bail the water out of the sinking ship fast enough to handle this many people. And, there should be no right to. In no part of my real life would anyone ever come up to me and speak to me this way. And if they did, I would probably give them back the same energy they gave to me. But it just doesn't happen. It does not happen in real life. What we do is we see these influencers, we see these celebrities, we see whoever they are, notable people, and we'll want to correct something we think they're doing wrong and we're doing right. And that's kind of like a virtue signal. It's our way of saying, I wouldn't do what you're doing. That's harmful to your child. Meanwhile, Claire's probably providing such a good life to her child. She's probably being a great mom. She's relatively affluent. She's got a career and is married to a CEO husband. I mean, I think they're doing just fine, good things for their family. I mean, I look at my single mom who did the best that she could, and I think, wow, imagine if she had to pick up her phone a little bit and get some work done while we were traveling. Hey, guess what? We didn't travel. We were lower middle class. We didn't do shit. I didn't get to hang out much with my mom. Why? Because she was really busy working in the world of sales. If I wanted to get in touch with her, I had to call her a beeper, and she had to pull over on the side of the road and call me back, and it would slow her day down. Yeah, I was a needy kid. I didn't get what I wanted. I had to become a comedian and seek validation from audiences and patreon.com/Dave Neal. The point of what I'm trying to say is there's so many ways to learn to use technology that's out there. It ain't always the right way, but shaming people surely isn't it. And like I said, I think it's different to have a conversation about how we are globally addicted to our phones. And I'm watching it play out with Jonathan Haidt. He has the book, The Anxious Generation. I think everyone should be having these discussions. We just shouldn't be pointing the finger at any specific person because we're all guilty in one way or another with the addiction. What he says here is the day he gives your cell phone to your kid is the day you're robbing them of any other kid activities they would have done before that cell phone came in. It's like giving your child their first dessert. If you can hold off giving a baby sweets, you do that for as long as possible. You can't even, and again, I'm not an expert. They say introduce vegetables to babies before fruit. You can't compete with fruit. Fruit is so good. Have you ever given up sugar and then had like an apple? Oh my gosh. How good is a strawberry, a blueberry? You know what I mean? So it's the same way with technology. You can't go backwards once you've introduced that crazy dopamine rush to a child, which we understand that. I was going to share all this with you. We don't need to do that. Real quickly. Now, I know that this response wasn't from Reddit, but here's Blake Moynes discussing Reddit And again, we say Reddit, it's an app, and people take it personally like you hate the individual. No, I mean, the Bachelor subreddit has 400,000 people. My guess is if you took out 100 or so bad apples, you wouldn't have a bad place. There's people that are obsessively on there, obsessively hating, and they have an obsessively larger voice than the random person that lurks. Here's what Blake had to say calling out Reddit after I guess they shared this crazy rumor that he's going to be on Perfect Match.
It's just such a perfect example as to why so many just don't go to Reddit and just don't participate in it. As far from our end, the amount of things that come up on there, you can't just make up a complete bullshit lie. It was never there. The fact that you saw me there and then talked to a producer that.
So Blake's responding to the fact that someone flat out lied about him, where he was, and someone created misinformation and put it on Reddit. So again, Reddit's essentially a tool, just like cell phones are. And as a tool, it exists to share information, to upvote, downvote things. But sadly, in the world of The Bachelor and other influencer worlds, it's a world that is used to call out people that are otherwise normal humans. And you'll have people, calling out, good-natured folks, right? And these people that call out others never are public. I always welcome them if there's any trolls that want to come forward. I could show them in 2 seconds how much it sucks to come forward and publicly have to deal with the things that some of these influencers have to deal with. And they might say, well, I didn't sign up for it. That's fine. That's fine. But, you can just ignore, you can just move on with your day. And I don't think it's too often that, Blake is one of the nicest guys out there. So for him to say, oh, yeah, we have a problem with Reddit is absolutely funny. And I like to talk about it because I've obviously, my general nature has been to deal with, whether it's moderators or commenters, and fight fire with fire. And it hasn't really gotten me much. It's really just made more enemies out of those people. But then again, if I remain silent, you'd see just misinformation shared. You'd see people conflating what you're doing. You'd see people coming at it with a really negative attitude, which I would never bring to my show here. And what you just have to realize is those people, I guess, are just going to exist. By deleting Reddit off my phone, I've made it so that I'm only going on Reddit when I need to source material and use it for my business. And when I'm not sitting down in the right mindset to deal with it, it just doesn't affect me. And I remind people, and I've had to tell people this, that follow me, if you see something that's mean about me, don't send it. It's living in bliss is actually totally, even if you look at politics, the political world's gotten so toxic that sometimes I'll just put on my sports talk radio so I don't have to hear about it. And it's that's okay too. Do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Claire's doing that. Blake's doing that. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to continue to speak up about all of the ways that the toxicity is seeping through the show and the entitlement that exists. I actually talked about this on the morning podcast today, the Rush Hour, which is a more political conversation. But Call Her Daddy, which is one of the largest podcasts in the world, had Alexandra Cooper on. Alex Cooper's the host. But she had Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris on the show. And so many people got so upset about her. We're using our tool and our voice in the comment section to try to shame others, to act a certain way and be a certain way. And I think as an influencer, as a content creator, as a podcaster, you just need to do your best to just ignore it. Realize these people aren't even living up to your level on a one-to-one basis. They would ever talk to you this way in real life, and they need to not exist. But if we just ignore them, will they go away? I don't see that happening either. I think it's a result of a world that we live in where there's a lot of people that are hurting, and they take to the internet to think that they're solving their issue. So while they might shame Claire for whatever dopamine hit she might be getting by being on her phone, they're doing the same by posting and thinking they're in the right. Well, good luck on that. All right, I got a lot of content coming your way. I got a Clayton Eckert story up next. I'm going to be live on the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal behind the scenes if you want to hang out with me there. We'll be back with more right after this.